My name is Franz Hall. I'm the Consul General for Jamaica in Miami. The consulate here is accredited to 13 states in the southern United States. We go as far west as Arizona and as far north as North Carolina. And we also have consular jurisdiction for the Bahamas and Cayman Islands. We find that the needs are typical, usually for passport services or documentation that is required from Jamaica that we can intervene or assist with. But certainly the various cities and locations have various personalities that are different. So it's important for us to recognize those differences and to be able to respond to the particular interests and needs of those communities. A position that Jamaica has held for a long time, that Cuba should be inserted more fully into the affairs of the hemisphere. With that being said, we have long discussed the possible repercussions of opening up relations with Cuba, but our tourist product is such that it caters to a different type of market, and there are sufficient attractions that will be able to sustain competition, if you will, from another country. In fact, when we had the global downturn a few years ago in the economy, Jamaica had the distinction of having its tourist arrivals increase during that period. So I think we are aware of the strength of our product. Never resting on our laurels, however, there's always room for improvement and room for adding further attractions, new hotels, to inject a dynamism into the product. But we don't necessarily see that there'll be a competition with Cuba or negative effects of opening up with Cuba. In fact, it may create opportunities for partnership with Cuba, given that Jamaica is 90 miles south of Cuba. Jamaica's population in Jamaica is about 2.8 million, and we estimate that we have well over 1 million Jamaicans living in the US alone. And back in 2004, it was recognized that this is a real resource for partnership that we could have a formal relationship with. So the idea was launched at that time to have a diaspora conference, which would serve to bring Jamaicans globally together in Jamaica to discuss issues of common interest and concern. This year, we're celebrating the 6th Biennial conference. And so it really, as I said, represents a global forum for Jamaicans to discuss issues of interest in Jamaica, as well as issues of interest to the various communities that reside outside of Jamaica. So it really is an opportunity to collaborate and to chart a common way forward with the support of Jamaicans throughout the world. We've come to recognize that Jamaica is a borderless country, and this is a form of engagement that we believe will assist us in ensuring all Jamaicans have a role to play in the development of the country. This year, the theme is Partnering for Growth and Prosperity. This will be my first conference in this capacity, and I think it will be a wonderful opportunity to really connect with members of the various communities here in my area of jurisdiction and to establish a personal connection. It's been a very involved process. Just last week, the 30th of April, we had a launch for the Diaspora Conference here in South Florida, which was the last in a series of launches that were being conducted by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. We had our Minister of State in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Arnaldo Brown, lead that delegation. He was able to address a large number of Jamaicans in the city of Miramar, which incidentally the event was streamed. So we had participation from, I believe, 5 countries throughout the world, with a number of Jamaicans in those countries signing in. The minister also had the opportunity to speak with representatives of the clergy. Part of the focus of the conference this year is to incorporate the clergy and faith-based communities more centrally in the discussions on social and economic development. So he had a very engaging discussion there. And he also met with the board of directors of the Jamaica USA Chamber of Commerce to look at the business and investment component of the conference. A lot of my work is really administrative. I'm the person in charge of the consulate. My head is on the block. We have a large Jamaican community to service, and we also have to engage in the commercial interests, commercial discussions as well, and service other areas of our participation as part of the consular community in South Florida. So it's really, for me, it is really a lot of supervision of the consulate directly, and a lot of being on the road to meet people in the community, to meet movers and shakers in various business interests, and to pretty much to represent Jamaica. I think the history of the migration has been proximity. So, you know, Florida being the closest point of the U.S. to Jamaica would be almost a natural entry point. And of course, Jamaicans do not, you know, like cold weather, despite the fact that we have a large Jamaican community in New York and in the Northeast USA. But over time, people tend to migrate to warmer climates. So I think, you know, the proximity to Jamaica, the climate, and the very real sense of a Jamaican community that you get here in South Florida has contributed to the growth in the numbers of Jamaicans. I had put a figure of, I believe it was around 250,000 Jamaicans in South Florida. However, that is, in our view, a conservative estimate of the numbers of Jamaicans. In South Florida, we would put the figure closer to 400,000. And when you look at the wider area of our jurisdiction, we'd be moving up to the region of 700,000 Jamaicans. A lot leave for education purposes, to pursue tertiary education and eventually settle here. There are other push factors in search of a better life, more economic opportunities. In fact, in particular professions, there might be a glut oversupply in the market, so, you know, to find a job opportunity, persons would have to look outside of Jamaica. So, you know, persons look to the U.S. given the proximity and the close cultural affinity between the two countries. So, you know, those are some of the factors. We have embarked, for the last 4 years, embarked on a systematic campaign to improve the investment offerings globally. There's a lot of opportunities in infrastructural development. We are looking at improving our ports to take advantage of the expansion of the Panama Canal. We're looking at improving the network of our roadways to cut down on the transportation time between ports and, you know, manufacturing sites or farms to get products to port quicker. We have opportunities in light manufacturing. That would be part of the whole expanded logistics hub in Kingston, which will include opportunities for light manufacturing and just-in-time insertion into the global production chain. Hotels, tourist industry with attractions, that is still a very large part of our economy. And we find that with the numbers of tourists increasing, we need additional rooms. So there have been a lot of new hotels, new activities that have been created. There's a new U.S. chain that is opening in Kingston later this year. And I think that just indicates the climate is right for investment, and there's an appetite globally for investing in Jamaica. Recently, Forbes magazine has declared that Jamaica is among the top 3 countries in the Caribbean and Latin America to do business. So, you know, that is a really good ranking, and I think it speaks to the strength of the investment climate and the infrastructure that we have in place to facilitate investors. Interestingly, given the proximity of the port, a third of our exports from Jamaica enter the U.S. through South Florida, that is between the Port of Miami and Port Everglades. And that is really a distribution point for the areas that are within proximity to Florida. A lot of our exports are agricultural products. And so you find that given the proximity, you know, perishable items, you need to be close to port, needs to be a good network for distribution, which I think we find here in South Florida. On the reverse, in terms of exports from Miami to Jamaica, it's manufactured food items predominantly, as well as inputs into various manufacturing businesses. When we're celebrating our 50th anniversary of independence in 2012, we wanted to honor prominent Jamaicans in the South Florida community, and it was discovered at that time that there was really no one location to get this type of information. So at that time, former Consul General Sandra Grant Griffiths pulled together a team of the community representatives and began to discuss the possibility of launching what is called the Jamaica Cultural Resource Center, which would really act as a repository of information on the contribution that Jamaicans have made in South Florida since we've started migrating to this region. And that has grown. There is now a Jamaica Diaspora Legacy Foundation that has been established, which will be the governing body for the Jamaica Cultural Resource Center. Things are still at the planning stage. We've established a foundation, the governance structures are being implemented, and subcommittees will be formed to look at the various aspects that will ensure or that would realize the construction of the Jamaica Cultural Resource Center. And this will, of course, require the input of not only Jamaicans, but our friends of Jamaica in South Florida who have seen the impact that Jamaicans have made in this region. The consulate is listed as an advisor to the board. As I said, the board is comprised of Jamaican nationals who have an expressed interest in ensuring that this center is realized. But we certainly advise the board because we see the importance of it.